Okay, so let's welcome our brother Colm for the service today. He's going to give us the service.
So thank you everybody for coming here today. Hey, we have some first gen as well. It's great. I think there's a lot of people away at the Chun Bo event. Is it? Am I pronouncing that right? So I just, actually there was another holy song I wanted to play, but I'm sorry for the confusion. I actually didn't, I had everything on the memory stick, so I didn't know who to send it to. I don't even have your email address, so. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know who, because my fault, my bad, forgive me. There was a couple, I just wondered really what the audience would be today, so I was thinking I had prepared something more for kind of first and second gen, but then when I came here it was just mainly second gen, so it's good to see some first gen as well. Fantastic. So I wanted to just play the world premiere of our UPF Peace Road video, which Tinko Tenev has edited finally yesterday. I think it's on the, either that's, if you go to unification.ie, click on it. Hopefully we have an internet link, otherwise my whole service is gone. Right, there we are. Should be hopefully working properly. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Can maybe go full screen on that.
Just.
Oh no.
The UN is about peace. The UN is trying to bridge these divides. Shouldn't there be an aspect of the UN that deals with religious conflict, that understands the thought and feelings of people of faith? And I was actually very shocked because the tour guide was like, no, of course not, no religion, right? Everything must be secular, right? And even one of the other tourists on the guided tour was like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't want to bring religion into the UN. And I felt like it was such a mistake, right? It's probably, I feel in many ways, one of the reasons the UN fails to bring peace is because they look at peace purely from economic perspective or purely from a political perspective. And they're not understanding the local dynamic and faith of the individual people who are there, and why they suddenly, why there's misunderstanding, why there's a disconnect. So I think UPF really is trying to fill that gap in the discussion of peace, and that's really where we want to focus and help drive the conversation that way.
So what we really have to work on, which I believe UPF has been doing without fail, is trying to work on not just educating people, but not just educating people about the different things that are there, but educating people to learn to trust one another. Is the trust. That's where the faith is. Abraham trusted God. Okay? Even Christ, when he came to the earth, he trusted God. When things were tough, things were rough, and everything else, he trusted in the word of his Father. and he stayed the course right through to the end. Now, the disciples as well, they stayed the course. They knew, they were not going to have it rosy because they were disciples of Christ. No, they wanted to pick up that cross and follow Christ. And when he says pick up the cross and follow Christ, trying to fight for peace in the world, trying to, when I say fight, you say, why is he using that word fight? Yes, fight. Because all the world, and if you really fully understand what Christ went through, and you fully understand what God is going through even today, God is fighting to restore peace on earth. God is fighting to retain good on earth. God is fighting to make sure that the way he created you and I to enjoy his creation.
I was in Israel in 2005, and I had a performing arts group, which Marshall D'Souza also has been a part of, and it was called WAIT, and we taught about HIV and AIDS. And we worked through performing arts. We, singing, dancing, beatboxing, break dance, a little humorous game shows and sketches and things like that. So we were in Israel doing this with another multicultural dance troupe, and we were at the Dead Sea, and we were doing the typical, tourist thing, climbing up a hill, climbing down a hill, taking a picture, And we met another little dance group, and sorry, not a dance group, they were a group of students, and they were interested in seeing what we did. So naturally, our young people whipped out their dance floor and they started performing. So when they finished performing, a little crowd had gathered. So then the students from the Druze community turned on their music, and they started doing this dance, and it was like in a line. It was a very simple kind of dance. So we joined in. Well, the next thing we knew, everyone in the entire parking lot joined this dance. 300-400 people. And they were from all different countries, it was tourists, So, people are dancing around all around this parking lot. And someone was there from the mayor's office and looked at this, and they quickly called the mayor and they said, something's going on here. They said, we have to have these people come tomorrow to our peace event. They were having a 5K run, for peace. So we were invited to come and perform the next day. But at the moment that we were watching and dancing, of course I was dancing with them, and as we were dancing, I saw the smiles on the faces. I saw everyone laughing together, and everyone was having such a beautiful time. And, no one was giving a lecture. No one was giving a sermon or anything, but I saw peace. And I thought, oh, this is what we could do in the world. We could have everybody dance together. Because if you're dancing, you can't hold the gun, right? If you're dancing, you can't be, driving a tank or something, right?
I'm ambassador of Healing Venezuela, which is very close to my heart because I was born, obviously, there. And Healing Venezuela is a charity that helps to provide public hospital in Venezuela, sending medical supplies from the UK. My mission and commitment is with that people that in a stricken poverty in Venezuela, helping them to overcome the pain, and it being a blessing for me, an instrument to, that helped me to alleviate in some extent the scale of suffering of those that are currently in a very bad situation in Venezuela.
What we want to focus is live for the sake of others, which is one of the principles of UPF. And that's why we are doing educational program through the charity which is called Education for Youth. So this is, I have a few slides in connection to the actual topic, but I'm going to just skip them, which is basically, is fate inevitable? I would say that because of the broad consensus of the large understanding that the religion is declining in the world, people think maybe religion is going out of fashion or whatever. It's true in a certain sense, which is the sense of the established religion maybe is kind of declining. But if you look at the research from the Pew Institute, actually we can see some interesting figures that actually faith is very much alive everywhere through different ways, through different means, or through different ideology, not ideology, but trends, let's say, call it trends. So based on 7.2 billion people, the atheist and non-religious people is quite small, less than a billion. So
It says 1986, it was actually founded in 1985. There's a very nice story I will tell you. It was at the first assembly of the world's religions in New Jersey. Reverend Moon was asked, the founder of FFWPU and UPF, was asked if by the religious leaders who attended the conference, if he could sponsor something for youth. And then Reverend Moon came up with this idea to bring young people of all religious backgrounds together and to serve the community. And his thinking was, by serving the community, by spending time together, living together, working together, they could, and giving them some education, they could better understand other cultures and religions and break barriers. And I think, for me, this is why I got involved.
All the volunteers, they feel like a family, you know. They feel proud of what they are doing. They help each other, even outside of the child itself. So they help with the work, and if they are struggling with something. So that's a very, very interesting thing. Okay, so our mission, we believe that education is the key, because without a lack of education, there's a lack of opportunities. Okay, without education, you don't have much opportunity. Without opportunities, you start to struggle with food, with job, and then this will bring you in a situation that you cannot provide education to your children. So this is the circle of poverty that is feeding itself. So we want to cut this circle of poverty by giving education.
Okay. So a big thank you to Tico for that. Yeah, thanks for persevering through that as well. I know it's a bit long, and if you're watching it, maybe, if you are familiar with our work, you'd just probably watch the first minute or so. But I'm really grateful to him for the professional quality of the production, and for everybody who came and supported, by the way. Thank you very much. What I wanted to talk about today was faith, the gift of faith. For me, I don't have many talents really. I don't have, when you look at, maybe there's a tendency to compare when you're growing up, and you want to see what's your strong points, what subjects you're good at, what job you're going to do. And I always kind of struggled and wondered, crying out to God, where's my talents, I know in the Bible there's a story that God gave more talents to the guy who already had made use of his talents. I forgot what biblical quote that was. I was searching for that quote, but I said to myself, I've probably got enough readings there anyway, so maybe we don't need that one as well. But the parable anyway in the Bible was that God gave talents to different sons, I think it was, and some of them just buried them in the ground and did nothing with them. And the others went out there and used those talents and developed them and became prosperous. So God then actually came back and gave that person more talents, right? So I was kind of frustrated growing up myself, and sometimes even today, that I don't have one standout talent, one thing I'm really good at that I can, earn an income from, or be good at in life as well, and get inspiration from. Because if you got a job that inspires you, it's not like a job. It's just it's how you spend your time. If you're into IT or programming, or if you're into animation, or you're into YouTube, or whatever the jobs of the future are going to be, if you're going to be a YouTuber, or if you're a professional sports person or something like that, this isn't like a job for you. This is your passion, and this is the thing you do every day, or you're good at cooking, or whatever that is. But for me, I didn't have one standout thing that I was good at. Maybe as an Aquarius, if you're into star signs, which I'm not, but I heard once somebody said that as an Aquarius, maybe that was my trait. I was kind of destined to be a master, a jack of all trades and a master of none. But anyway, that was my struggle in my faith. But then I realized as time passed by that actually I did have a gift, maybe, and a nice one at that, and that was faith, that I had faith, and hence I'm still here. How many years later? 1991, I joined the church. What's that? 28 years later. And I look around and I see you young people, and I'm actually very inspired, especially when I see the harp service every month, which we kicked off in September, was it? Yeah, and it's great when you're not here. I struggled initially, maybe others from the first gen as well, who like to come and get inspiration here on a Sunday. There's not that many of us maybe, but there's still a few of us who come here, the diehards. And then we're told we can't attend. We're not allowed to come to the harp service, But there was a back door in, and that was the old video service down there in the corner. So I found this was great because you didn't have to physically be there, but you could still find out what was going on, So last week we were able to observe Aisling and Hannah emceeing, if that's what you call it. But it was great to see them up there. But I just wanted to call out and thank the last few harp Sunday service givers, Brendan, and before that we had, who was it?
Brendan. Yeah, two Brendans.
We had two Brendans and a jung show. And of course, Samuel and Daniel were emceeing and helping out, and Tara and everybody who was making it, yourself and Rory, all the second gen helping out. Fantastic, guys. It really is. But I think you don't realize how good that is for the younger ones growing up as well. You probably do realize, but this is normal for you. Your normal kind of default mode is to be helpful to others and living for the sake of others and giving inspiration to the younger ones, But you're also giving inspiration to us elders, particularly because we don't really know, maybe I don't anyway, appreciate how difficult it is growing up, especially Brendan's service, the last one he gave, tips for how to survive, I suppose, in your life of faith in secondary school particularly. But I'm sure Dylan can relate to that as well. I don't know if you heard that service, but thankfully it's on video there. So even if there's not many people here at a particular time, it's nice to be able to look back and see particular services, I think anyway. But so I just wanted to call out and thank you guys for that. The inspiration that you're giving us all, and I hope that continues. And it's very sincere. Even Junctions last week, it was really, really, I think he was talking about prayer, I think was his focus. So I was trying to come up with things to talk about once I was told I'd be swapping with Tinko today. And I thought, faith is a topic I like to talk about. Prayer is another one. And myself and Danny, we were at a service last week, a Christian service. I'm hopefully going to be able to bring a pastor to True Mother's event in New York on the 28th of December. And this is a Christian church, kind of Pentecostal, African. And I remember back in the late Patricia, she went to, I think we all went along to the church down on Mary Street there. This must be 15, 20 years ago now when we went down there. She gave the service down there. And I guess it was a very evangelical, and she's also that sort of person, Pat, who's very evangelical and who's, really inspired by the Spirit and able to witness to Christians in that regard. So for me, though, I'm very cynical about the Christians and their theology, because I just find it's very inaccessible if you don't absolutely believe that Christ died on the cross, with the blood of Christ we're saved, and the rest of you are going to hell if you don't believe in that. For me, that's like, nah. I suppose growing up as a Catholic as well, that wasn't something you ever heard in Catholic church. It was, very sort of
You're going to hell anyway.
You're already in hell and you're going, I suppose yeah, so I was kind of had mixed feelings about going there, but the reason I could meet this pastor was through some UPF contacts actually, and this is the thing that I'm really grateful about UPF, that it's given to me, that we're able to network and we're able to meet people who are maybe, I won't say on the fringes, but they're not, like, if they're already very powerful and very successful, they usually don't want anything to do with UPF because they don't need us, like, you know. I know yesterday Danny was at a conference in Cavan, and the Four Seas event is called. So it was a massive thing. There was, I don't know, 150 people attending, a nice big dinner in the evening with all the local politicians and everything. They had people from different faith communities and different NGOs. And it wasn't really interfaith, it's intercultural. So you've Garda representatives there, you have government and local government representatives. But so you can meet people in that environment, but they're already very kind of, I won't say high level, but they're for the regional VIPs. But we had our UPF Peace Ambassador there. Yes, I wasn't there, Danny was there, but we had Dr. James Uomobi was there, and he actually also introduced himself as UPF Peace Ambassador, which I was delighted about. But you can tell also that Tinko's involved in that in the background, and he's doing a lot of hard work there to, you know, to promote, I suppose, UPF and everything. But he's working in the community and trying to get people involved who are on the margins, you know, maybe immigrants who don't know that many people, trying to get them. Social inclusion is a big thing, but the type of people who we kind of at the moment are able to bring, I describe them as either, you know, they're on the way up, they maybe haven't become that well known yet. Maybe people like Linda Irvine last year. After we invited her, I found out that she had been appointed the ambassador for Seachtain na Gaeilge, the Irish Language Week. So she had a national profile within 6 months, and she had been building that up. But she came to our conference, and then unfortunately, many times when people come and they become more famous, they don't want to come back and associate with us. So it was nice to see Dr. James yesterday, you know, being very proud of his UPF connection. So I hope I can, you know, we can do that in UPF Ireland with people like this pastor who we met, who, you know, if he comes to New York and if he's able to meet True Mother, I really feel that'd be great, you know, blessing from God for Ireland. And he has, his own congregation is very small, but he has access to a massive congregation, one of the biggest churches in Pentecostal churches in Ireland, so African churches. So I think he can, if he can understand, and he's one of these guys that's on the way up, himself and his wife. So we were at the service last week, and himself and his wife were. It was a 2-hour service. I'm thinking, how are you going to talk for 2 hours? Like, my God, you know, I mean, how does that work? So, yeah, so it's an awful lot of holy songs, you know, to fill, to pad in. But yeah, like there's a combination of trying to get the spirit moving through song, through reading the Bible, and then they're waiting for the Spirit of God to come down and touch them and speak to them, which is beautiful, I think. But that's normal for them. So they don't struggle, I'd say, in the same way as we do when we are asked to give a Sunday service and what am I going to talk about and who's going to be there and, you know, how am I going to inspire James and the rest of the gang. Never. But it's nice that they're probably not under the same pressure. But at the same time, you know, you have to stand in front of there and actually represent God and hope that God's Spirit comes down. And I felt kind of bad for the preacher's wife, as I'll call her. She's also a preacher in her own right. You know, she's a lovely woman, very full of energy and that. But you could tell that, you know, she's waiting for something to really light the fire, as it were, in terms of a word or an inspiration or a concept. So, the 2 hours went by very quickly, and actually it allowed me time. I don't know about Danny, but it allowed me time to reflect actually and to pray and to think. You know, in terms of making the condition, prayer is actually so important. Many times I'm going into work and I might be struggling with a colleague, you know, I might be having a real bad experience with you know, one of my teammates, and I'm wondering, how am I going to avoid getting into arguments with him today? So I decided, well, you know, preparing for service is always a good time to reflect on these matters and our relationships with other people. So I said, look, I have to pray. I actually have to pray. I'd love to listen to my podcasts, my Ben Shapiro podcast, or my Spotify, or my morning radio, or whatever. But no, I'm going to end up, somebody's going to lose their job today. And it's probably going to be me if I don't prepare for this guy today, because, he's not the worst guy. It's just sometimes tension at work. An allocation of roles and responsibilities can mean that if you're not clear about what you're doing and what your responsibility is, so there is a certain amount of negotiation involved in a lot of these situations. So I actually prayed hard to get over this particular day or impending confrontation, and it was grand. It was fine, and sometimes things happen and you don't even expect it to unfold the way it does. He was given something else to do, and we had a chat later on and we got on fine, So people have things going on in their heads, and they have expectations, and they have egos, and we have egos, and we have things going on in our heads, and we have expectations. So when those two things collide, it's very hard to know how that's going to unfold. And there's no point in being really Machiavellian about it and I'm the boss and I'm great and all that, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work in most organizations today. If you work for yourself, it might, but even if you work for yourself, you still have customers to deal with. So human relations are very important. And I find prayer is an incredible gift, an incredible tool, and something I sometimes forget about and I don't use as much as I should, maybe because I'm getting a bit older and it's hard to get out and walk now. I'd rather just put on the music in the car radio, and try and pray to that, which I can do sometimes. I wonder about the quality of it, but anyway, that's something that this gift of faith has given me from when I joined the church. I don't know about you, Second Gen. When I look down at you, I find you incredibly inspiring on one level, but because I actually live with some of you, then on another level, I wonder how much do you actually inherit a faith from us? Do you obviously have to build your own faith? You have to go your own way as well, to a degree, and find yourself. And that's a challenge. We all had to do that. Everybody, first gen, second gen, third gen. But I suppose we came into this thing after being rescued almost from a turmoil of the fallen world, as we like to call it, whereas you guys are born into it, and there's a different challenge there. It's like understanding that not everybody, understanding that to find God, maybe you still have to look for that. You have to look for God. God isn't necessarily just there just because you're in a blessed family, and I think you've conveyed that very well, actually, Brendan, and I'm really grateful to you, because it's inspiring for me to understand that life, to articulate it, having looked back on it, and Junction as well. So I hope you'll continue to do that, because it's a great resource, to be able to hear, to understand your, and I hope you don't think we're listening for every, kind of in a critical way. We're not, actually, we're not. We're just, personally speaking, I'm very, very grateful. And I hope Colm and my kids and the rest of the kids listening really pick up inspiration from that. So, when I was, I guess you'd be in your early 20s, 22. So a lot of you are in your kind of college times now. And the challenges out there are incredible. I mean, when James was in Germany in Carp, when was that? 30 years ago? Church, but you participated in the Berlin rally with Joachim, along with members and church members and Carpies and all those guys. And many of our first gen, it's 30 years since the Berlin Wall was taken down. Praise God. Amen. Hallelujah. And, it's for us, for our generation. No, I'm maybe a similar generation. I'm the same generation as James, but James is a little bit older, and he was actually there. This incredible testimony to be able to point to that his generation, not my generation, because I wasn't in the church. That was around 1987, I think, when Joachim, Carp Convention in Berlin. Yeah. And I want to finish with that video just for a couple of minutes, if you'll indulge me, everybody, because I was trying to find it today. I hope Tara can find it by the end of my,
On my Facebook.
Yeah, Joachim, is it Joachim Berlin Wall? Joachim Berlin Wall, if you Google that, it comes up straight away on YouTube. So I just wanted you to feel that was our, well, I actually, I'm borrowing from James here, it was our generation's fight and struggle and victory, incredible victory. But like, I often wonder, because I'd love to have put myself back into well, I was alive in 1987, but I was on a different spiritual planet, shall we say, unfortunately, which is another reason I love you, second gen guys. You're actually keeping to the tenets of your faith, the spirit of your faith in terms of, keeping purity. Marshall, you saw Marshall talking about weight, Marshall D'Souza, and also Kate Sabata talking about this thing that they had like 10 years ago. Remember the dance troupe, Wait? Some of you probably haven't seen that, but that was maybe the generation before you. That was their thing. They were doing that. And so when you get to my age, you start getting you're into boring things like UPF and good governance and networking in that area and going to chicken dinners and things like that and meeting people and making contacts and huh?
Chicken dinner.
But back in the day when I was young and able to move around more easily and yeah, you were able to do really exciting things like protest on campuses and cause a real ruckus there. Now, I know today it's difficult to do that because you have to think to yourself, do I want to graduate from college and have a livelihood? Or do I just want to be a protester like my parents who ended up not getting good jobs and having to go back to college at the age of 40? So there is a balance there, lads and ladies, and I hope that as intelligent second gen, you know where to draw the line, you know where to build your allies, you know which battles to fight. They're not all worth fighting, believe me. I have to go to work in a place where we have a diversity inclusion policy, most of you do. And I have to look at rainbow flags, and I have to look this, that, and the other. I love everybody, I respect everybody, but I have my beliefs and my values. So there are times when it's taken me a long time to understand and still I make mistakes in this, which battles I'm fighting here. But the thing about UPF is it gives me something to invest in, which was set up by True Parents, supposed to be the Able UN, a way to meet like-minded people from because let's face it, we're not that big here in Ireland, but we have a way to make a coalition with people, like-minded people from other faiths that allows us to live our values, to speak up for ourselves. And I'm hoping that in the next couple of months, next month, the government are finishing their consultation about a new hate speech law, which sounds lovely. Banning hate speech sounds lovely. Nobody will be able to insult us anymore and call us this, that, and the other. But there's a bit of a catch. We won't be able to say that we believe that marriage is for a man and a woman.
That's only, it depends on how.
We'll see how that unfolds, but I'd encourage everyone to contribute to the consultation and see if they come back to you and invite you to a public meeting to express your views before they then ban those views on you. Even if they ban them, they're unlikely to imprison you yet for speaking your mind, but they'll take away some of your rights, maybe, or your publications, or they'll give you raps across the knuckles. It really is scary on one level if you look into it deeply. And I know at your age, you're focusing on getting through school, getting through college, and that's fine. That's your responsibility. And your parents, I wouldn't expect no more from my kids, because I don't want them to be treated as second-class citizens or having to struggle to make an income. But just be aware, guys, there are other people out there, and there may soon, every day I'm waiting for the backlash. I'm waiting for the fight back from the able side. And hopefully it will come someday before I get locked up or fired or whatever. But anyway, that spirit of youthful enthusiasm and protest that all young people have, there's only one time in your life when you're going to have that, and that is when you are young. I know you can bring that spirit with you, like James there. just imagine James there back in 1987. Do you remember much Veg, was it? Yeah, and they're studying this now. Aisling is studying it in her history class about the Berlin Wall coming down. Aisling. But it'd be interesting to know what the narrative is in that class, you know. And given that these values that communism tried to spread, these are really Satan's values, guys. Atheism, humanism, and materialism. They are Satan's values. And they're actually blossoming forth today in all these things that we see from the left. The LGBTI plus diversity and inclusion policies, the fact that our schools are required to teach that, they don't have a religious opt-out anymore. This is another campaign we have in UPF now, which is gaining traction. Thank God.
6 years ago in Germany, they're offering that,
Mm.
and they put people in prison
Mm.
for not sending their children to these classes.
Mm.
So much for freedom.
So,
Yeah. So
really extreme.
it's very sad when you see what was achieved 30 years ago when we have to go and fight this all over again, in a sense. But I feel it's a different time and we have a different foundation. And it's not just us. I mean, literally, it feels like, I don't know what it was like at the time. As I said, it was on a different spiritual planet. But it feels like it was just us and CARP and the unification movement who were fighting against communism. When Father declared in 1987, around the same time, in the Intercontinental Hotel in Geneva, in the ICUS, the International Conference for the Unity of Science, that communism was dead or would die within the next, I think he said by 1990, he would be in Moscow. He would be in Moscow. People thought he was a nutter. They tried to get him to change the title of the conference. The End of Communism was the title or something like that. They said, no, you can't call it that. Your communism, it looked as if it was as strong as it ever was. All powerful. So if you want to just indulge me and watch this for a couple of minutes and then we can close afterwards. I could say more and I could keep you here all day and you'd walk out on me. And I think you're glad to get rid of me. But the thing is, brothers and sisters, we have a few people missing today, and I'm sorry if I wanted to talk about maybe something slightly different, but actually it's good that maybe I get to raise this issue because I never know what God wants to say. Like the preachers in the Christian church we went to last week, I'm waiting for the inspiration sometimes to come. And if any of you, please come up here. And I think the more often you come up here, the easier it is, to be honest with you. I don't know how you find that, Brendan. Jim said you were here twice in the last month.
I've also done talks at workshops and stuff like that.
Preaching to the converted. You know, so guys, it is good. Even Aisling up there last week, she was laughing away. Like, at least she gets a bit of exposure.
Very good, very good.
You know?
You're the best part of it.
I couldn't take her seriously, but it was great to be able to see this in the car. Like we were going to Enniskillen one day, I think we were watching you, and I was able to watch this on the phone on the way to Enniskillen. And thanks to Rory as well for being so meticulous about uploading the services and recording them. But any young Tara, second gen, Jula, guys, you need to make it your business to come up here and really share the wealth of your knowledge. It really is a rich resource for our second gen. It's so nice to have you guys here where you can share your experiences, because the younger ones, like, they're relying on you for inspiration. Dylan as well, they're relying on you. Like, how are they going to get through?
A different angle of things.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we can't do this as first gen. We cannot do this for you. This Yojin was True Father's eldest son, and he had a very difficult life. In school, he was persecuted. People used to bring him in. Into the toilets and urinate on them and everything. There was awful stuff going on, and he suffered a lot, and he became addicted to drugs and to alcohol. He destroyed his marriage, and he's now in spirit world, and I'm sure he's very regretful. But at that time, he was following True Father. He was a very loyal and filial son of true parents, and I have a deep love and affection for him. He was into heavy metal music. He thought he could change the world through heavy metal music. A lot of people aren't fans of his music. I am. I like it, even if it's in Korean. I remember listening to it in Bulgaria when I was over there.
I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, James is a different generation, as I told you. But when I was in Bulgaria, and I was sent over there by the British Church in 1992, at the tender age of, Tara's in a hurry, did anyone take over from her? I was in Bulgaria in 1992. I was really inspired that I was lifted out of the west of Ireland and my situation, no prospects, no education, and here I was at the front line of God's providence, witnessing to young Bulgarians about heavenly parent and true parents. It was really incredible. Like, I felt like winning the spiritual lottery, as I've often said, you know. And of course, I got a beautiful gift from Bulgaria, which I'm trying to look after. But I just Amberly, I think, spoke about this too when she went to Africa. You know, how incredibly inspiring it is to be out in the mission field or to be involved in any of the events that, I'm not saying all of them are inspiring. You need to find the one that you are inspired by, the activity, the organization within the unification movement that inspires you. Not everything's going to be inspiring for you. It might be the wrong time. But try to find something, guys, because it'll be with you. It's a treasure that'll be with you forever. As we'll see, like James. Imagine James now. You can roll it there, Tara. And we watch. Imagine James and Anthony McGuigan. I don't know who else was there, actually. I know those two were there. Well, that's Heinz. Yeah.
Diese Frau hat mir über eine Stunde lang ihr Herz ausgeschüttet und hat mir erzählt, wie schwierig das Leben im anderen Teil dieser Stadt ist. Sie hat mir einen Satz ganz deutlich gesagt. Man kann das System wirtschaftlich oder ideologisch. Their mistake and initiate by bringing heart and mind together with effort to resolve that mistake. Now we are standing here by the Berlin Wall with grief. Because we all know this is a mistake. This is not a sign of peace, nor a way of life, of sin. In the essence of that lies true love. The essence of our human nature. Together. This is not the intention of God. This is not the doing of God. The love of God, parental love of God, always flow down. It's a vertical love. It's always flowing down. The horizontal love, that is our responsibility. We change, not God. God never changed. Love of parents never change. The sons and daughters, their love for their parents change. We must realize this. This is very important. In order for us to unite East and West together, we must unite within our parents. We must unite with our God. God is living. Inside God dwells a artistic human essence that is so important to us. That is so important to the rest of the world. That only through that can unite, and only through that world can come together. Only through that this wall can break down. Through that I saw when I was coming down here, I saw the sign. The victory winning is through communism. Winning is through communism. What does that mean? Winning what? Suffering, pain, and lives? Is that winning? No! It's not winning. Communism is not, it is not true. As I just mentioned, it is not even fact. It's outdated thoughts. Right. It's a mistake. How can anybody believe in a mistake and can live a faithful, a true life? No way. It is a lie. Everybody here in West Berlin know this too. How can they stand still? I'm a Korean. I'm an Oriental. Yeah. Look at everybody here. They're Germans. They're Japanese. They're all the people around the world. Nothing to do with Germany. But we are here, standing here at this ground, at Berlin Wall. Why? Because we are here for God. God. Beyond beyond tradition and heritage. That's why we're standing here. That's why I'm telling you these things. I'm insignificant. My word might be insignificant. But the truth of God will live on. Your land will die. Your flesh will die. And it will destroy. It will rot. But the Spirit of God will live forever. Only true love can go over any barrier. It can overcome anything. Let's come together and pray for all those people who are suffering in the communist nations. Let's pray for the world. Let's pray and live up to the words that we seek and we say. We'll live up to the words that we say. That's what's different from communism and from your educated church member. Because we truly need to bring this world into a peaceful world. We want to bring this world to God. Not by threat, not by power, not by materialism, but only by truth of God. Only by love of God. Only by love of God. Everybody here is good. If you want to challenge us, go ahead. Day by day. And pray for Heavenly Father. We will bring victory. We will bring communism under you. Even inside of God's heart, there is even room for communism. There inside of God, there is even room for Gorbachev. Inside of God, there is even room for people who are accusing us. Inside our hearts, there is a room for you. It's not too late. Come on, let's go to the wall and pray.
You missed the best part of it.
Yeah, when they start throwing paint
No,
and fighting with the lefties. Yeah, that's cut from that. I wonder is there a longer version, but yeah, after that, there's an attack by the leftists. You were there. You tell us.
Yeah. No, it was like it was actually on my Facebook. It's got a video there. And what they did is there's a part of the wall here. The wall is there, and a part of the wall is no man's land. So the communists, they took over an area which was dedicated to someone who was killed getting over the wall, no? And the police couldn't get rid of them because they were in no man's land. No? So then the members started to attack them, and they pushed them against the wall, and they choked them against the wall. Then they ran from there, and they were running into East Germany. And the police from East Germany, the border guards came out with their guns, and it was like nearly an international incident. It was like that was the most exciting part.
Thanks, James. That's really good. Incredibly inspiring. That for me is the best thing on YouTube. But obviously, you need to have some connection with it, and I have a remote connection, but you have an even stronger one. But just with Eugen as well, I forgot to say like that he really loved your father, and I know his sons are very. They're looking for to get blessed now, and but what do I want to say about him? He had a tragic life and addictions, and I think he growing up in America as a man of color in the 1970s and 80s wouldn't have been that easy. You think it's hard today, you know, in terms of racism here in Ireland, but even in New York in the 70s and 80s, being the son of this famous cult leader, Reverend Moon, can you imagine the persecution that he came under? But he loved his father so much. You can tell it in the passion there where he's speaking, you know. And I think he's in a good place actually, because he repented for all the things that happened, that he did wrong before he went spirit world. And I wouldn't be judging him myself. In fact, for me, he's an inspiration, and I hope we can channel that spirit. But he had an incredibly difficult life, and he could understand father's persecution, you know, in America at the time. When America turned on True Father, you know, the one that suffered the most, I'd say, was Yojanim, actually, in school, and the way he had to deal with the racism and the persecution from white society, American society, for being this weirdo, basically, is how they would have regarded him. So I really love and get inspiration from him. I have to pray to finish. You want me?
No, there's another period.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Colm. Just reminded me of my life of faith as a member. I also dropped off college because I was persecuted in school because of being a Unification Church member, but I managed to go back, so it wasn't today. Anyway, please, we will now go to the last song, New Song of Inspiration.